We are so glad to have you back on Biblio Files today, and I have with me a really special guest. You know, one of the things that happens when you start your author journey is you begin to associate with other authors. And in that process, I have met so many amazing people who are either just starting a novel and have never done it before, B, who are in the process of publishing, or C, who are experienced and have a long time in the business. But today we're going to hit the middle ground, a fellow author who's going through pretty much the same part of the journey that I am at this time. Her name is Barbara J. Gilbert. She's written a wonderful dystopian apocalyptic series that is, well, we'll talk about it in a minute, but it's amazing, and so you probably want to check it out. Her background is pretty amazing and actually quite similar to mine. She's also a veteran, and we just have really enjoyed our association together as we go through this process. Barbara, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Well, we are so happy to have you. Could you give us a little introduction to you and basically why you decided to do what you're doing right now?
Well, like you said, I'm a veteran. I spent 7 years in the Air Force. I was stationed in Michigan for my first base, then over in Germany for a couple of years. I was actually there in Germany, not in Berlin, but I was there when the wall came down. And then came back over to train into a different career field right when Desert Storm was getting started. Sent my entire squadron over to Saudi Arabia to support that mission. Got out of the military and ended up going to North Carolina. My then husband, because we recently had gotten married, was stationed at Seymour Johnson, and we spent 13 years there. Eventually I had 2 little boys. They are both now in the Air Force themselves. Let's see, moved to Montana. Eventually, I would say with my writing, I've always told stories or thought up stories. I've even written things down, but never got around to actually publishing anything. I'd start and then never finish. Life would get in the way or other interests. But a couple of years ago, I don't know, about 7, 8, 9 years ago, my boys were being homeschooled and their father required them to write for NaNoWriMo every November. You know, I couldn't figure out why they wouldn't do it. I mean, they didn't have to do any other subject, just write. Mm-hmm. And I hated writing at the time when I was in school too, but gee, you know, I hated math worse. So I was taking care of my mother in the Tri-Cities in Kennewick, Washington, nearby where you are. And I decided to give them some incentive and decided to write in that, you know, with NaNoWriMo as well. Ended up with the most words, but never finished the book. Did it again the following year to try and give them some more incentive. And after that, I was like, my oldest was graduating from school, and I was like, I'm done with this for a while. And it was 2018 when I was getting all the emails and the Facebook posts again, and I thought, well, the rules have changed. Let me check out my first story and see about, you know, finishing it. And printed it out and was reading it on a bus at 6 in the morning on the way to New York to a photography conference. And decided, nope, not going to do this one. And just started dreaming up a whole new story.
Okay, so for the purposes of those of our readers, our viewers who don't know what NaNoWriMo is, I know that's a very strange sounding word, and it's not a word at all. It's kind of a combination. It stands for National Novel Writers Month. And basically how it works is once a year they do a challenge for someone to write 50,000 words on a topic, preferably a book or story, in a month. Mm-hmm. And that's actually kind of how I kickstarted mine, and it's where Barbara and I met, was on the NaNoWriMo forum, where writers help one another. One of the things I love about it is it's not where people are critiquing and, you know, criticizing or anything. It's all about, hey, you can do this, and oh, I got this idea for this plot, or I'm having trouble with this character, can you help me? And the response is just beautiful. It's amazing to see people interacting like that in such a helpful way. Well, I did my 50,000 words as well, plus some, and I went, you know what? I'm really close to having a whole book here. Maybe I should finish it. And so that's also, you know, pretty much how I got started. So here we are with stars in our eyes. We're writing a book. That's just like the coolest thing. I always wanted to write a novel from the time I was in high school. But, you know, it wasn't really quite what I expected. Do you find that that was true for you too?
Yes, I do. Like you, I hit the 50,000 words, and of course I decided if I was going to ever publish anything, I better just wrap up the story and split it in three, because I wasn't anywhere near done with the story. But yeah, I thought it'd be simply publish it and forget about it, but that's nowhere near what it comes up to.
Oh yeah, you know, write a book, they say. You can make lots of money. Once you've got it done, you could just sit back and collect cash for the rest of your life. Huh?
Oh no.
Oh no, right? So you get it all written, and then you look at it and go, oh, oh no. Because when you read back through, you realize it is so totally not ready.
Exactly. It's got errors and redundancies and just all kinds of issues and problems.
Right. And the thing is did you find when you were reading it through, did you find that you kind of got a little discouraged?
A little bit. I mean, the first time I was reading it through, I was doing okay. I even printed it out. And back then I was actually helping out at PetSmart, you know, keeping an eye on the cats. So, and cleaning and everything. And so I actually read it out loud to the cats.
Oh, good job.
Which kind of, you know, because they say in order for you to pick up on things that are wrong or issues in your manuscript, to read it out loud. So I found reading to the cats was quite helpful.
Well, and I'm sure they enjoyed the story immensely.
And they mostly ignored me, but
Okay. That's what cats do though. But,
exactly.
but, you know, I mean, I have a cat, of course, who's kind of a star in my books, and he's paying more attention than you realize. So you never know. So what were some of the things that really surprised you when you started going through the process?
Well, one, I'm not that good at making a book cover. I got to looking at it, you know, looking at others on the web, you know, on Amazon, and I was just like, well, you know, it doesn't look that good. Also, I found out that out of all the buildings in the world, the Space Needle there in Seattle is trademarked. And of course, for you to use it in an upfront photo, I mean, you could use it as a skyline as long as you don't modify it. But they wanted $3,000 to release the trademark so I could use it.
Wow.
And so, and of course I didn't find this out until I paid for my first paid cover, and so I paid for another cover. But I had some author friends in other forums and Facebook groups that kind of pointed me in a direction for a cover designer in my genre, which was really awesome. And then someone that pointed me to an editor, you know, so and it turned out that this editor, being that they kind of freelance, they do more than just your typical, I mean, if you go online, you see things about copy edit, proofreading, developmental edit, and my mind's going, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start, you know, and then they tell you what their prices are, and I'm like, holy cow. Well, being that I'm a, quote, C- writer, I paid 2 cents a word, but instead of 1 cent a word, but it was like she was in my mind. She could kind of figure out what I was trying to say and kind of restructure things. So it was nice running into an editor like that.
Right, which is the difference between a proofreader and a true editor.
Right.
Say editing, and they use editing like it's a synonym for proofreading, and it's not.
No.
An editor looks at what you've got and says, okay, so all of this is good. And I think what you're trying to say is this, but that's not what I'm getting when I read. Can you fix it? And so you go back through and you fix it, and you work with an editor. They will do some proofreading as well, just in the process. But more importantly, they help you turn your story into something that really completely makes sense to the people who are reading it. And I think people who proofread and get their, cousin or aunt or somebody to just proofread their things, they get their books up there, and there might not be any typos or spelling errors or grammatical errors, but the story just doesn't sing as it should, and I think that that's really the importance of finding a really good editor and they're not afraid to say, you know what, this part really isn't getting it. You really need to do something, and they'll give you suggestions of some of the ideas of things you can do to switch and change. So once you get it all edited and you finally get your book cover together, now you get to publish it. If you're a self-publisher, which both you and I are, and more people are self-publishers, what were some of the things that you didn't expect about publishing it yourself?
Well, I didn't expect the difficulty in formatting the paperback at first. I remember my first attempt at formatting the first book, and I spent 5 hours trying to figure out why the margins were wrong. And about the 5th hour, close to that, I realized, wait, the margins are right. They're supposed to be offset like that. And, so that was one of my difficulties. But once I got it published, it was like, okay, it's up there, and, now what? I had to do some advertising, and I found that some of the advertising just wasn't, I was spending more than I was actually making. Amazon loves to tell you, oh, you made $80 or you sold $80 worth of books, and you only spent 20, and you count it up, and the actual royalties you made less than what you spent, so I didn't really expect all the marketing and everything that was going to be involved in getting the books out there, especially your first one, because nobody knows who you are.
Right, exactly. And you're lost in the millions of other self-publishers out there that are publishing books. Some of them are great, and most of them are not so, and which is one of the reasons why self-publishing has a bit of a stigma attached to it. But I think too that you took a really important step in your journey that I want to emphasize right now, because I'm going to be interviewing some writing mentors, and you found yourself a mentor, and tell us what that did for you.
Okay, well, which one? My first mentor actually is one of my authors that I was sick in August, and I just devoured his books and loved them. He read my manuscript, and he came back saying, hey, you need to show more, tell less. And so I'm still working on that, but I went through and re-edited, tried to make more showing versus telling. And then in book 2, I came across a beta reader that was, I think, more like a really intense editor in disguise, because he literally decimated the book and gave me suggestions and rewrites, and actually I think it came out a lot better, and he's offering to do the actual first second draft of book 3, and you know, based on one of the reviews I got for book 2, I kind of smiled because one of my other author friends, you know, gave me a 4-star rating for book 1, and for book 2, he actually gave me 5 stars and said that the book is better, you know, better written. So I'm hoping to continue making progress of that by having different people that are willing to help me out.
And then, you know, with your marketing, you also have you're getting some help with your marketing as well.
Yeah, one of the author friends actually gave an entire Facebook group his spreadsheet of all the Facebook groups, how often you can post and all that. So a lot of my sales, in fact, practically most of my sales now have all been due to free advertising across Facebook groups. For book 2, I have spent a little bit of money trying out some new website avenues and other ways of promoting it, but we'll see how that works.
Right. Well, and I think that it becomes really important especially for new authors just coming into this with the stars in their eyes, you know, kind of like people who want to be an actor or, you know, some other kind of thing that is considered, you know, a very romantic profession. They need to recognize that there's just a lot more to it. It's one thing to write the book. It's quite another to sell any. And
Right.
so getting some counseling and help from people who know the industry and understand what needs to be done in order to get your toe in the water, because literally the first couple of years, once you've published, is spent just letting people know you're out there.
Right.
You know, and that can be a very difficult task. And one of the things that I have loved about watching your journey is you have not been afraid to ask for help. And I think that, you know, no writer is an island would be a really good title for this particular show, because it's a little scary, don't you think? You know, the whole thing, submitting your book for the very first time and knowing when you hit that publish button that all of a sudden people are going to see it.
Right.
And they're going to make comments and it's your baby.
Yes, indeed.
It's gut-wrenching, isn't it? But
Yes.
how did it feel to hold that first copy in your hand for the very first time?
Felt pretty good.
Yeah.
So, in fact, I've got both copies sitting on my desk.
Right. That proof copy that comes with a little gray band around it says not for resale is precious. It's just something that's a keepsake that you don't want anybody to touch, because it could be a collector's item someday, right?
Right.
But anyhow, and so in this journey, if you could give some advice to someone who's just maybe decided to join NaNoWriMo, or who is in the process of writing this book and it's been 3 or 4 years and they're still dabbling at it, what would you suggest to them?
Well, I would suggest that you keep writing. As I've told one of the people I try to talk to every Friday, is take those ideas and write them down. And don't worry about whether they fit in a particular chapter or a particular scene, because later you can come back to that and find out if whether those ideas are going to fit or not. And then you've got everything written down and you won't forget about it. So keep doing it. Keep writing. Keep your ideas fresh, and just keep going. That way, when you get ready to do that, what we've done, and hit that publish button, you'll be really proud to know that you've got that book completed and ready to go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree. I think that it's there's a little bit of fear for people when they start this journey. But the other thing that I've noticed is how important it is to get involved with other authors.
Right.
And to get that encouragement for people who actually understand what you're dealing with, because it is such a different world, right, than
Oh,
anything
indeed.
that any of us have ever experienced. And the writers of the past did not have this kind of support for the most part. I mean, you hear of a few like Tolkien, who is part of a group of other authors, the Inklings. I just,
Yeah.
I love that story about him and C.S. Lewis and the others. And so I think that it's vital when we've got access to, there's so many great groups out there. Before you join a group, maybe you should take a look and see, is this a group that's highly critical? Are the people that are in it, people you would feel comfortable hanging out with? But then once you do that, being active, I deliberately spend a certain amount of time every day going into the groups. Now, right now, I'm at a different experience level. And so now I'm able to pass down advice and encouragement to the
Right.
ones who are just getting started. But I also benefit from the ones who are more experienced and more successful than I am, And of course, then there are the biggies out there. I mean, it would be really nice to be JK, but most of us, if we got even a tenth of what she's experiences as far as her success is concerned, we'd be pretty darned excited.
Oh,
But
yeah.
we can look at what she's doing and say, oh, I wonder if I should try that. I wonder if I should do that. Oh, this is a really good example. I like reading other people's stuff because I also get good examples of the different aspects of writing, not necessarily specific wording or anything, but just different aspects. And I go, oh, I love the way they finished out that scene. Or and so I read in a completely different way now
Right.
than
Me
I ever
too.
did before. So at any rate, I am so excited that we got to have this conversation. We've been meaning to do it for a while.
Yes.
Now let's talk really quickly. We've talked in general about your books. Let's get more specific. Tell us about your book series and where it's headed. I'm so excited about it. I am a fan. So,
Well, the first book in the series is called Future Apocalypse Beginnings. It's about a brilliant young woman who has always dreamed of time travel. She invents that time travel, decides to go 250 years into the future, excited to learn about new and more advanced technologies that meet her brilliant level. But when she gets there, she finds that the Pacific Northwest is, Seattle's underwater, everything's destroyed, and she tries to return, and there's an error, and she can't return, and she's stuck in this post-apocalyptic world. She has to find a way to survive, and of course she does have her go bag and a few supplies that she'd already pre-planned to have with her. And so she's searching for people that she can hopefully trust that can help her. She does come across a group of people, and that transitions us to book 2, where she hears about a mythical city of technology. In other words, a city that kind of came up out of the ashes, where a lot of scientists and smart people had gotten together and working on science type projects. And so in book 2, she and her group of friends have to hike across the Cascade Mountains into the former eastern part of Washington State to this city of technology. And there she hopes to not only be admitted, but to be able to find out if they have the means to help her get back home. Book 3. Go ahead.
And there is a serious cliffhanger at the end of these books. I'm just warning you guys ahead of time, just so you know.
Yes, and book 3, I mean, the title says Future Apocalypse, Homeward Bound, so it automatically tells the reader that she's going to make it home.
Or does it?
But.
I know your style, which is why I said what I said. That is so exciting. So these are available obviously on Amazon.
Yes,
Get it Kindle, Kindle Unlimited, and paperback, correct?
correct. And the audiobook is currently being formatted for Amazon right now for book 1, so it should be out soon, as in Audible's time when they feel like it. But it'll be out soon. And book 2 is in the process of getting started already, so for Audible. So
That is so cool. Yeah, I've got one out on Audible and another one that's about to start its process. So I will eventually also have them available on Audible, because I know so many people either A, don't have the time to read, so they read in their car via Audible books, or are visually impaired, such as myself, where reading is no longer fun. I can't sit down and read a regular book or even a Kindle without having real issues, because it's such a struggle. So I'm really grateful for Audible books. They're wonderful. So thank you, thank you, thank you for coming. Now, they can get in touch with you via your website. Can you give us that URL, please?
Okay, well, my website address is bjgilbert815.wixite.com/SYFY author.
Cool. So we will make sure that that's posted below for our viewers. And I just want to thank you for taking the time out to do this today. And next week, we're going to be speaking to a ghostwriter, which interestingly enough, the character in my books, Jenny, is a ghostwriter, and he's not just a ghostwriter, he's also a writing coach. And has done some really amazing things for a lot of people in helping them get their own books published, as well as publishing for people who don't have time to write their books. And usually these are business books that need to be put out with that person's knowledge, but they don't necessarily either have the skill or they don't have the time to write. So that's what he does. And so I'm looking forward to talking with him next week. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching, everybody. Please take the time to like and share and comment about our latest episode of Biblio Files. You can find previous episodes on YouTube and on the Dimensional Alliance site under Biblio Files, as well as the Biblio Files fan page. So any of those will give you access to these wonderful things, and we would really love your feedback. Thank you very much. Everybody have a brilliant day, and we'll talk to you next week.